Everybody, I'm pretty sure we're back. I am Dan Selke, and I'm here now joined by fan-sided editor and Overmunch,
right.
Josh Hill.
Hello. Overmunch, indeed.
And we're here to discuss A Clash of Kings, the second book in George R. R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire series.
Yeah.
On this, here's what we do, Josh, if just to catch you up, is you and I read through each and every chapter of A Song of Ice and Fire. Oh. I've read all the books multiple times. You have never read the books.
Wait, that's what we're doing?
That's what we're doing.
Oops. I didn't prepare for this then.
I read a different book. I read Gone with the Wind.
I thought we were reading Lord of the Rings. You were just talking about Lord of the Rings.
It's true.
Damn it.
We kind of are. And we go through every chapter, break them down, see what makes more, make some special.
Yep.
And we're on Clash of Kings. We're still pretty early on in it. We just read the first Jon chapter from A Clash of Kings. Josh, what were your hot takes on this or your initial reactions?
Benjen. We got a Benjen mention. So
We did.
I do like him. These Jon chapters are very interesting because there's not a whole lot ever goes on. And it's also kind of like a string of these last chapters that we've read. Not a lot went on in the Bran chapter, not a lot
That's
went
what
on
I'm
in the Arya
like
chapter. Yeah, the streak continued where it was like, okay, we got some information, but not a lot, and there was barely any action.
Which I mean, and let's qualify. We are reading one chapter a week at a time in a book that, like, that's not how you read books. So it's...
But it's very episodic, just like Game of Thrones.
I think if we were reading like a normal person and just like reading the book,
been those
like,
3 chapters
sit down for an hour and then you just read a few chapters in a row, it goes a little faster. But yeah, we've definitely been in setup land for a while now. And that continues here, absolutely. Like, this is nothing really happens in this chapter. Jon and Sam are talking in the library. Jon's talking to Lord Commander Mormont. And we get some interesting, a lot of foreshadowing, but we're basically just caught up with what's happening. And what's happening is Lord Commander Mormont's going to take a lot of Night's Watchmen, like 300 strong, take him beyond the wall, find out what happened to Benjen Stark, find him, dead or alive, bring him home, dead or alive, and just go on a big old fact-finding mission. Jon's coming, Sam's coming.
Sam.
How does Sam feel about that?
He feels like Sam. He feels a little... This is not a strong man, Sam is. But I wouldn't define him as the strongest soul. But he's there with Jon, so it's like this. I like the tandem, the friendship that they have.
Yeah, it is cute, right?
It is, because Sam's very much not looking forward to doing anything that exerts any sort of effort.
He does not want to go north of the spooky wall.
But Jon's there, and that's kind of like a safety net for him. So it is like this cool little buddy cop element to their whole relationship.
I was charmed by how much of a giant nerd Sam was in this chapter. So we see him in the library like late at night. He's looking for maps. And
foreshadowing.
You think so?
Well, in the show, because doesn't he find out about the Valerian steel or whatever in
yeah, he does.
the library?
He finds out the Dragonstone map. Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, he's always in a book or something. He's going to do it. And he's waxing poetic to Jon about these manifests he found for like Night's Watchmen 1,000 years ago. But like, look at all the pickled herring they ate. And Jon's like, who cares about how much pickled cod they ate 600 years ago? And Sam says, I would. You can learn so much from ledgers like that. Truly you can. It can tell you how many men were in the Night's Watch then, how they lived, what they ate. And Jon says, they ate food, and they lived as we lived. So I like that contrast, that Sam is this incredible, huge nerd. Well, he is big, but incredibly huge nerd who is actually interested in 600-year-old like inventories of like how much pickled cod they had in the thing.
No, I like that.
And Jon's like, can we go?
It makes him endearing.
It does.
Sam is this character who doesn't fit in with any of the other characters, these traits that these other characters have, because you've got all of these warrior characters, you have all of these alphas, and then you've got Sam, who's just Sam. He's not even a beta. He's not an alpha. He's just Sam, and he's talking about cod that's 600 years old and all.
And he's interested in it.
And he's genuinely interested. There's a relatable, endearing quality to Sam where it's like, because I was reading that and I was like, oh, not specifically about 600-year-old fish, but cod, like I could be like, oh, I could see myself.
You're into like the minutia of Star Wars.
Yeah, like reading about it, and because I was going to compare these chapters to The Last Jedi, where not a lot happens in a single movie, and we're just going through these chapters, but there's a lot of setup in between things. But yeah, the minutia of Star Wars. But like that would be something that I like would nerd out about, the same that Sam would nerd out about pickled herring, which is
exactly. And
not the same
I'm
thing.
About Song of Ice and Fire because here we are. So I relate to that. I think Sam is a kind of a self-insert character for George R. R. Martin. He is.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
Oh, it's totally true.
Oh,
He's,
big
the bookish,
Oh yeah.
kind of bigger nerd.
Yeah. Bearded.
Beard. No, Sam can't grow a beard. You kidding? Okay. Not enough testosterone. Suspenders probably another thing. So that's adorable. And of course, he's doing that in part because he is utterly terrified to go on this ranging north of the wall. He has to go because someone has to watch over the ravens, and he's good with animals, and he can write, so he can write messages. And he's like, you can write, why don't you do it? John's like, I'm going to be busy. Sorry, got a squire, you got to come.
Which is great because, like, I would definitely go into the Night's Watch being like, you know what I'll do? I'll do the one thing that'll never require violence. I'll write. And then here he's thrust into this thing.
Yeah,
where
it's gotta
it's
go.
like, I'm good with animals and I can write words. I will never have to wield a sword. And it's like, nope, here you go.
And he's terrified, which, I'll get over.
Which I would also be.
Of course, who wouldn't be?
We're all Sam. Can we just say it?
I also like this little bit. So this is just kind of the start of it. We also get some there's a lot of describing the wall just because, again, we remember this is the first time we're seeing Jon in a new book. We saw him 3 years ago. So he's not going to dive right in. He's going to take descriptions. But I like the descriptions. The color of the wall was wont to change with every shift of the light. Now it was the deep blue of frozen rivers, now the dirty white of old snow. And when a cloud passed before the sun, it darkened to the pale gray of pitted stone. Wow. What an evocative wall.
Very evocative.
I like it. I like
Very
the
visceral.
Yeah, it's immediate. I can see it. It took me there. I can.
I
see
mean,
the
I've
wall.
seen it in the show, so it kind of spoils it a little bit for me. My imagination has been soiled, but
Sure, but still, well described.
it's a
Mr.
well
Martin.
described wall. That's how I described it the first time I saw the show. I went down to a friend and I described it exactly like that. And so when I read it in the chapter, I was like, my God, is it possible for somebody to plagiarize something that I said 15 years after they wrote it?
I think you should sue him and find out. And beyond that, we get some other. At this point, everybody interprets this comet differently in the air. Everybody, I remember Arya saw it as ice. Ned saw it used to top of his head. The first guy thought it was an omen of dragons. And now we get people are calling it Mormont's torch, sent by the gods to light the old man's way through the haunted forest, to guide the Night's Watch ranging beyond the wall.
Yeah.
So again, we kind of hit that a bunch of times, that theme of perspective. Everybody says it's been different, yada, yada, yada. There is no truth but your own, that kind of thing. So that's happening. We also get just again, a lot of foreshadowing, both plot and thematic. I liked this bit where Donal Nye, the armorer at Castle Black, talks about the Baratheon brothers, who will dominate a lot of this book.
Okay.
A lot of this is Stannis and Renly fighting, is the Clash of Kings. Robert was the true steel, says Donal Nye. Stannis is pure iron, black and hard and strong, yes, but brittle, the way iron gets. Stannis will break before he bends. And Renly, that one, he's copper, bright and shiny, pretty to look at, but not worth all that much at the end of the day. Which I think is, again, these characters are going to be huge in this book. And that is like the Stannis description. He's iron. He's hard, but he's brittle. He'll break before he bends. Stannis is unwielding. We know that. Stannis will do whatever it takes, up to burning his daughter, to do what he thinks needs to be done. Even if it's incredibly ill-advised, and then all his army deserts him, and he charges and gets killed. So I think that's very what's the word? Perspective there, and a very accurate prospect of what we're going to get. And Renly, again, of this kind of kind of frivolous dude who is trying to be king, partly because it's fun, and not really because he really burns with desire to do it or has a sense of duty about it. And again, I think it's nice that we get that set up here, even though this story will not interact with the Baratheon stuff at all. But we do have a character here who knows them and can tell Jon a little bit about what these guys are, which is more for our benefit, because Jon's not going to, I guess he will meet Stannis eventually, but he's not going to meet these guys for books and books yet. But we're going to meet them a lot in these pages.
Exposition. I love it.
I mean,
little
but again,
setup.
It doesn't really read as exposition.
No, it doesn't.
Because it's well written.
Well, it's world building too, because it's like, here's this character that knows of these other characters that we're going to be talking about or meeting and going inside of their heads.
And they do that too, because he fought, I forget which side, but he fought, in the Robert's Rebellion. So he would have met all these guys back then before he came on the thing. So smart there, Martin, you rascal. And also I liked when Jon is talking to Lord Commander Mormont, there is a dude named Thorin Smallwood in here who had been one of Alistair Thorne's henchmen, and he doesn't approve of the range and thinks it's stupid. We shouldn't do this. It's a waste of resources. And as we both know, there's eventually a mutiny beyond the wall.
Yes.
Lord Commander Mormont dies. I think Martin's laying the seeds for that here.
Yeah.
That there's at least one Night's Watchman who thinks it's a bad idea to go beyond the wall, and it's going to end in mutiny. So he ends up. This sentiment will spread among the rest of the team.
Foreshadowing.
It's all
great.
foreshadowing. Oh, we also have, and then it also foreshadowed some themes.
Theme foreshadowing.
Exactly. Donald Nye is just a wonderful source of great lines. Talked about Robert Baratheon. What's that?
He really was.
He was. Robert was never the same after he put on that crown. Some men are like swords, made for fighting. Hang them up and they go to rust. So a theme that we have a lot in this series is how power changes you.
Yep.
The idea that Robert was, a good leader, a strong warrior, and then he puts on a crown and he becomes king, and he's just different. He's not the same person he was. He goes to hell. He goes to rust. He starts to be lazy, not really take his job seriously.
Yeah.
And again, we have to ask ourselves that. We have to ask, how does Jon change when he becomes Lord Commander of the Night's Watch? How does Daenerys change when she goes from Drogo's concubine to leader in her own right? How does Cersei change when she goes to mother of the king to burner of everybody, queen in her own right? A lot of the book, to me, is about what power does to you and how it changes a person.
Yeah. Well said.
All right.
No, I mean, because it was like the analogy or the riddle that we had in, was it this book or the other book?
It was this book.
This book, that's right. Because I was thinking of that.
It was last week? Or almost
With
2 weeks ago. 3 weeks, whatever.
with the sword, what does the sword mean? And it's all metaphor for power, and it's all a metaphor for what wielding that power means. Not necessarily for who wields the power, but what you're wielding the power for. So the people, what can they do against you?
Exactly. All right. And, okay, finally I want to ask you this. So, toward the end of it, like for 2 pages, Lord Commander Mormont goes on a long, very detailed discussion of Maester Aemon's past and how he almost became king.
Yeah.
How he, all his relations. He tells this whole story about, Maester Aemon's a Targaryen dude from way back in the day. And, he was like 5th, 6th, 4th in line to get the crown, but his brothers died in battle. His sister was an idiot and couldn't inherit the throne because she was simple. And he spends a lot of time talking about this. Why do you think he did that, and was it boring to you?
It wasn't boring. I mean, it wasn't particularly interesting either. It was not a page-turning conversation. But no, I mean, it was an interesting factor that, like, the idea that he could have been king.
Yeah.
And then he just wasn't king. Like that was.
He has that humble humility in him.
I know, and like we're in the middle of this, dead heat for everybody trying to get to the throne. You've got everybody who's a rightful heir to the throne, and you've got Joffrey, who's not even a rightful heir to the throne. He's the product of incest,
he thinks he is.
And somehow he's managed to, trump his way into the throne. And we have a guy here who could have had what everybody wants and was like, I'm good. I'm gonna go way up north and exile myself. It's just like it was a fascinating juxtaposition between what we've been dealing with the characters, and then here's this person who could go completely against the grain, and it's like, why? And he's not, and it's like almost spoken poorly of, or it's like, you could have been king. Why wouldn't you want to be king? How dare you not be king? And he's just like, whatever.
Actually, I hadn't really thought of that. I think you're exactly right. That's a good point. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about how power changes you when you get it.
Yeah.
What does it say of somebody who could have it but says, yeah, thanks?
Yeah.
Is that a good thing, a bad thing? It's just maybe the way to keep power from changing you, maybe this is the lesson, is to not assume it and just stay humble.
Wow.
And serve.
There you go. My life has changed, and everybody else who's listened to this is now a different person.
I was going to complain because I do think George R. R. Martin has these kind of occasional passages where he loves his own invented history so much that he just kind of like goes on about it in a way that's not terribly fascinating reading, doesn't really serve a super duper point.
But like a broken clock is right twice a day. So like maybe he falls ass backwards into these. Maybe I'm misinterpreting. Maybe I'm waxing poetic about how he's got this thing.
Your thing makes a lot of sense. It makes perfect sense.
It does, but maybe he accidentally did that. Maybe he is just fetishizing his own, imagined history. And here we are so many years later. Like how many other pieces of literature have we hundreds and thousands of years later been like, it means this, and when the person wrote it is probably Shakespeare is probably like, this is a joke. This is a fart joke, and everybody's like, oh, this is so brilliant, this soliloquy is like, it's about a toot.
Well, personally,
like, what are you talking about?
I think we can benefit that out because I liked interpretation. I think it's a good thing. And there is technically a point because he's Lord Commander Martin is saying this to Jon.
Yeah, important.
And he's comparing it to what happened with Robb. He's saying that Maester Aemon's brother became a king, and he was able to step aside to become a Night's Watchman, where he's not going to get any glory. He's not going to marry anybody. He's not going to have kids. He's not going to live in a castle. Not going to wear a crown. Not going to do anything fancy. He's going to be in a cold ice box the rest of his life with a thick chain, like advising people who are underfed, underpaid. It's going to be a hard life. So you, Jon, your brother's a king now. Robb is a king. Can you do that? Can you be the person who just devotes himself to this kind of, difficult life as a Night's Watchman while your brother goes and gets glory and women and wins battles and does all this cool stuff?
Yeah, it's very existential. Perfectly existential for Game of Thrones.
It is. Well, and could you do it, Josh?
Could I do it?
Could you serve knowing that your best friend and brother is off living his glory and living his truth?
No.
No?
I'm way too selfish for that. I couldn't do that. No, I probably could.
Well, Jon could. Oh,
Jon could.
Wait, you are back on it now? Okay,
maybe.
fine.
I don't know.
Well, Jon could, because Jon says...
Jon could, yeah.
He asked Jon, what will you do if you're tempted by that? Like, how will you handle that if it troubles you? And he says, I will be troubled and keep my vows.
There you go. That's why Jon's the best.
It really is. He's made a vow to the Night's Watch. He's going to keep it. I don't care how cool Robb is right now and how awesome it would be to be like him.
Well, I wouldn't want to be Robb knowing what happens to him. So
that's true. But no one here knows what's going to happen to him. Right now, Robb's riding pretty high.
It's true.
Which, by the way, that's more thematic foreshadowing or even plot foreshadowing, because the idea of Jon's vows. He's made a vow to the Night's Watch, right? He will, I don't know what they are. He'll take no lands and have no kids and don't marry anybody, blah, 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 blah. Ygritte's going to test all of that.
Oh, yes,
He's
is.
going to be tempted to, maybe I should just hook up with this woman and become a wildling, because it's a lot more fun than having no sex for my entire life and being devoted to an old order run by people I don't really like.
Solid reasoning.
So that's going to be his trial. Like, how devoted to these vows really is he?
Not very devoted.
What do you mean it's very devoted?
Well, at the time, he is now, but let's see.
He is then.
Yes, that's true.
He doesn't turn for Ygritte. I mean, we know that now.
Well, yeah. She also dies. I mean, he kind of had his hand forced. It's like, all right, well, I mean, what are you going to do?
He doesn't kill her.
Well, no, he doesn't kill her, but she dies. It's kind of the options taken away from him.
Wait, but he could have. Anyway, I mean,
he could have. That's like me being like,
he could have gone over to the Wildlings and told them what he knew. He didn't. He goes undercover, and he falls for her, but he still lies to the Wildlings, and he still breaks away when he can and goes back to Castle Black and warns them the Wildlings are coming. If he really turned, he would have stayed with her.
Or he's playing both sides, and that's actually pretty dishonest.
He's
having his cake and he's eating it too.
I disagree.
He needs to pick a side. Either you're on Ygritte's side or you're on the Night's Watch. No, don't mingle.
He is the Night's Watch side.
And then he's selfish because he's like, Ygritte's going to come over to the Night's Watch because I am Jon Snow.
He never thought that.
Oh, yeah. What chapter do you get to in this book here?
A lot.
Is that in this book?
Oh, yeah. She's in this book. I mean, the thing where he was. I think you're completely wrong. You misremembered it. That's what I think. No, because he has to go undercover because it's either that or be killed. And he goes undercover long enough to learn their stuff, and then he goes back to Castle Black and tells the Night's Watch that they're coming. Here's how they're coming. Here's how we defend them. He never left the Night's Watch in his heart.
But the Wildlings just want love. They just want to be loved.
Yeah.
They just need a hot shower and a good meal.
That I agree with. Yeah, they do. And we'll discuss all that too.
We get to the chapter.
Should they let through the Wildlings? Wildling human relations. We'll get into all of it.
What a tease for that chapter. So if you're not already reading along, you better start now because that interesting conversation is somewhere in your future.
We should fight more. I think it makes for good.
It's good.
Good fake TV.
It's very good.
Anyway, next week is going to be Catelyn 1, another of these series of introductions. Look forward to I'm going to guess more recap and more foreshadowing until we get to like Catelyn 4 or something.
All right.
Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back next week, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Here on the Windscreen Facebook page, more Game of Thrones news, more Song of Ice and Fire discussion, more genre fiction extrapolation, and more A Song of Dan and Josh. Thanks for watching.